All right, let's dive into an analysis that kicks off with just one single, pretty disturbing image that popped up online. An image that, as we'll see, might just signal a massive shift in global power. So, this whole thing really boils down to one question. Why on earth would someone with deep connections to the White House post this specific, very provocative image of Greenland? And, just when you think the picture is strange enough on its own, it came with a one-word caption that takes it from mysterious to, well, kind of ominous. Soon. What could that possibly mean?
Okay, so to really get what soon could mean, the analysis says we have to start at the very beginning. Let's get into section 1. A strange map appears.
Now, the first thing this analysis points out is that this wasn't just some random person on the internet, right? The image was posted by the wife of Stephen Miller, who was a top advisor in the White House. And the image itself leaves nothing to the imagination. It's Greenland, which is Danish territory, completely swallowed up by an American flag. And when he was apparently asked about this, Miller's response was, well, it was pretty chilling. The quote is, "Nobody will fight the United States for Greenland. We live in a world governed by force, by power." That viewpoint really sets a pretty aggressive tone for everything else we're about to unpack. But here's where the story takes a huge turn. According to this analysis, this isn't just about one island. The ambition is way bigger. And that brings us to the most shocking claim in this whole thing. Section 2, the plan to dismantle Europe.
So where does this idea even come from? Well, the source points to a strategy document supposedly from the Heritage Foundation. And if you don't know, they're one of the most powerful think tanks in Washington, famous for drawing up policy playbooks.
And inside this document, according to the analysis, is one line that's just a total bombshell. It says the European Union must be dismantled from within. Not tweaked, not reformed, dismantled. Okay, so how do they back up such a huge claim? Well, they point to a few key things. They claim the official U.S. national security strategy actually supports groups that are opposed to the EU's whole structure. They also allege that the U.S. has been directly backing anti-EU politicians in Europe. And at its core, the argument is that the EU is no longer seen as an ally, but as an economic competitor that has to be brought to heel. And the why behind all of this? The analysis says it really comes down to one massive number, 450 million. That's how many wealthy consumers are in the European Union. It's a market so huge that, from a certain point of view, its trade surplus with the US is seen as a direct economic loss for America. All right, so let's circle back to Greenland, the island where this whole thing kicked off. Section 3 digs into what the analysis calls Greenland's 3 secrets. What's really going on behind the scenes? Now, the official reason you hear for all this interest is national security, keeping an eye on Russia and China. But this analysis, it says, nope, that's just a cover story. They point out that the U.S. already has a major base there and full permission to expand it, but that same base has actually been shrinking for years. And to really get the military side of things, you've got to understand this one critical term, the GIUK gap. It's that super strategic patch of ocean between Greenland, Iceland, and the UK. If you control that gap, you basically control who gets into the Atlantic, especially submarines and any potential missile threats. So, if it's not the official story, what are the real reasons? Well, this analysis breaks it down into 3 big secrets. First, space dominance. Greenland's location is apparently perfect for controlling satellites, which are the backbone of our entire economy. Second, military control. It's not about just having a base near the GIUK gap, it's about owning the land outright. And third, strategic resources. It's about getting a lock on rare earth minerals to break China's monopoly on the global tech supply chain. Now, all of this high-stakes geopolitics, it doesn't just happen in a bubble, right? The analysis claims it's setting off what it calls a financial earthquake, and it's sending shockwaves through the global markets. Think about U.S. Treasury bonds for a second. For as long as we can remember, they were the safest bet in the world, the old view. But now, the source claims that's changing fast. The new view is that U.S. debt now comes with some very real political risk attached. And what does that lead to? Well, you're looking at it. According to this analysis, central banks, the biggest money players in the world, are starting to hedge their bets. Their holdings of the US dollar are reportedly shrinking, while they're buying up more gold and euros. It's a quiet but massive shift.
And if you want a really stark number to latch onto, the source brings up a forecast from Goldman Sachs. They're predicting that gold could hit $5,500 an ounce by the end of 2026, and it's all being driven by this kind of geopolitical uncertainty.
So, in a world with all this tension, where do you think the money is going? Yep, defense. The analysis shows that defense stocks are just exploding. You can see the returns for defense-focused funds are absolutely crushing the wider market. It's a pretty clear signal of where things are headed.
So, how do you even begin to wrap your head around all of this? The source uses this incredibly powerful and honestly pretty disturbing metaphor. This brings us to Section 5, the violent marriage. This is apparently the comparison being thrown around in Brussels. Europe is seen as the partner in a toxic relationship, totally unable to leave because it's so dependent on the US for its economy and its security, and the other partner knows this and uses it as leverage. So, the natural next question is, can Europe get out of this situation? And if so, how long would that take? Well, the experts cited in the analysis figure it'll take about 7 to 10 years for Europe to be able to stand on its own 2 feet. That's a long, dangerous gap between the dependency of today and a very uncertain future.
So, what's the big takeaway from all of this? According to this analysis, it's that the world we thought we lived in, it's already gone. The old rules don't apply anymore. The question isn't if the world is changing, the real question is how Europe is going to respond.
And that leaves us right here with the final, unavoidable question that this analysis puts on the table. It's a choice that's going to define the next few decades, a decision that has to be made while that one word, soon, is still hanging in the air. Vassal or sovereign? What will Europe choose?